Hey, everybody.
Okay, wait. Ready? 3, 2, 1. No, you're not supposed to swallow it. Hey, Caleb, do you want another treat?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to We Movies. I'm Scotty, and this is Jordan. This is Caleb.
You can hear him.
Yeah, you can.
He's chewing in the mic. Oh, he's drilling. I love it. Caleb, stop it. We watched Isle of Dogs.
Caleb seemed to understand them pretty well.
He did. I felt like he got it on another level that we couldn't possibly understand.
Yeah.
So, this film is a film by Wes Anderson, who's done many films before, like the Royal Tenenbaums, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. What else?
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
The Hotel.
The hotel.
The Hotel. I'm just called The Hotel.
the hotel movie. And now he's done Isle of Dogs.
Yes.
Oh, and Moonrise Kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of his work. Have you? I mean, you are as well.
I love his work.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. And it's funny because every single film that I've seen of his before I've gone to see it, I've been told by people who have seen it before me that I shouldn't overhype it and it's not that great, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird feeling because every film since what is the hotel film called?
Oh, I mean,
I'm gonna look it up.
We were talking about it literally 20 minutes ago, but it's hot. In fact, this is going up the same.
So the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes.
The Grand Budapest Hotel is pretty much ever since seeing that film, a lot of people have overhyped a lot of his work to me, I feel, which is odd.
Because that's one of his most recent films.
It is one of his most recent films. 2014, I think. Was it 13?
Oh, is it 15?
I don't know.
Maybe it is 13.
2014. 2014. Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to, I guess, experience over
I think
and over
it happens
again.
a lot when you discover a director for the first time. So, for example, when I first watched Quentin Tarantino's movies, people were saying, don't expect Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown to be as good as you expected them to be. And I'm like, that was probably true with Jackie Brown, but
yeah.
I like that movie more the more I watch it, whereas Reservoir Dogs I've just always loved, so that's kind of funny. And in hindsight, I think I love Reservoir Dogs more than Pulp Fiction. But
I mean, that's fair. I find Reservoir Dogs to be a lot more raw than Pulp Fiction is.
Yep,
that makes sense. But we're not here to talk about Quentin Tarantino's work. We're here to talk about Wes Anderson's work. And this movie. Where do we start?
Let's start at the very beginning. Well,
yeah.
Okay. No.
Who's starring in it? It's Bryan Cranston,
George Clooney,
George Clooney,
Edward Norton.
George Clooney's in this.
I think so. Isn't he the original bodyguard dog? Is he?
No. That's Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber is the original. Yeah, Liev Schreiber is the original bodyguard dog. Which is it's
Scarlett Johansson. There's a lot, and then there's a bunch of Japanese voice actors, which is important because all the humans in this movie speak in Japanese. And unless it's Frances McDormand who plays the interpreter interpreting for us, there's no subtitles or anything. So you are just hearing Japanese, and if you don't speak Japanese, you don't understand.
Which I think is a good way to get around the whole problem of trying to make all characters speak English so the audience understands them, because that's such a bit of a trope. And
Caleb, don't move around.
Caleb needs to go outside. I think he needs to go to the bathroom.
Okay, we'll let Caleb out.
12 seconds later.
Welcome back.
Caleb
needed to go out to the bathroom. He was pretty desperate.
I think he actually wanted to see the movie again. He actually stole the Blu-ray and is, I think, watching it at his place right now.
So this film is another film directed by Wes Anderson. It came out last year. What time last year? It was like late last year sometime. Or mid last. Was it mid?
I can't remember.
I think it was mid last year because it's
that's
been
right.
out on DVD
it came
for a
out
while
the
now.
same time as Ready Player One.
Yeah, so it's been out a while. So it's about 6-7 months.
It came out in limited release, which is a shame because, for many reasons. I didn't get to see it at the cinema either. but I did buy the DVD. We bought the DVD. We saw it. It was-
Blu-ray. I got it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because I've been searching for the Blu-ray for a while. Anyway.
Let's talk about our initial impressions because
Yes.
I thought this might be his best execution of an idea yet.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I would, yeah, I think, like, when you said best, I was a little worried. I was
No,
like,
it's not his best movie, but
but yeah, no, best execution of an idea, yeah, definitely. What I loved most about it is a lot of the problems and issues that would come up in something like this, like the fact that it's set in Japan, so naturally you would think, okay, we've got to make it easy for the audience to understand these characters, so what we're going to do is we're going to make them all translated into English, or all of them speak English, and we're going to do it that way. Instead, he takes a more realistic approach to it, and he goes, at the very beginning of the film, it actually has a little bit of a subtitle come up saying, all characters aside from dogs are going to be speaking in their native tongue.
Yep.
Aside from the occasional translator in character inside the actual film itself, all of them will be speaking.
and
in
it's kind of
Japanese.
funny because the dogs speak English, but so do the English people. So obviously,
Yes.
dogs speak English. This is just a common fact in this movie.
And they do have one little detail that I really like is that these guard dogs, and again, this film is set in the future, in the near future, is what
Near
they say.
future, in
but
alternate history as well in Japan.
I
but-
think it's almost post-apocalyptic, you could say, because it certainly
It-
feels
to
like
me,
that.
there's the Australian artist Sean Tan. What it felt like to me is if someone had taken one of his art books and made it a real place.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good
Sean Tan's
analogy.
awesome. So
Sean Tan is awesome. And there's a lot of nods to that, and I'm glad that they don't go into any detail as to what led this, like the world to this point.
no, all they talk about is the story that's relevant to the story. So
To the characters that are in this
yeah, so
story.
they talk about at the start. And first of all, I love that the first shot of this movie has cat symbology in it, and instantly you
Yeah.
go villain, because this is about dogs, and it's like yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. If you're a cat lover, you might have a hard time with this movie.
I don't know. It's not like they're mean to the cats.
No, the cats aren't inherently evil. It's the people that
Like cats. It's people
Yeah,
who
there's the
like
people
cats.
who like cats. They have a yeah. But there's no bent in this. Like it's not anti this or anti
No,
that. It's literally just this is just how the world is now. Like it's
Yeah.
not yeah.
So there's this old-fashioned history that's done by one of the dog characters. I can't remember which one he is.
It's
We've got a list of characters.
We do. It's A.F. Murray Abraham. That's it.
Yeah,
You might recognize him from the Grand Budapest Hotel. He
Yep.
was the older gentleman in the film that was telling his story to Jude Law when he visited him, and he's telling his story of the hotel that he worked in. And I loved it. Like it was just this.
Every shot. Once again, I'd like to point out before
Yes.
Jordan jumps in. Every shot is a Wes Anderson shot in that it's so deliberate, it's so framed. It's like you're looking at a theater screen. I mean,
Yeah.
A moving theatre.
It's a moving theatre. Well, that's Wes Anderson's style.
Yes,
It's always
it
been
is.
a moving theatre, and he's gotten to a point where he's almost perfected that style, I feel.
Hmm.
And he's only gotten closer with this. Like, the very first scene that we're introduced to is an old Japanese priest
Yeah.
praying at an altar, lighting candles and all this other stuff. And it just sets the cultural scene, I feel, for the whole film.
it's weird. So many movies try to create a mythology, and this just did it so naturally. The
Yeah.
history in this movie just works, and I think part of it is because of dogs and cats.
Yeah.
We know what the rivalry intrinsically because of other movies.
But the thing is, like, I think a lesser director would have focused a lot on that kind of that animosity between those two animals and focused on that as the main story. But this, it didn't.
it's
it
more
focused
about
on,
So
it focused on stewardship. I feel as a major theme of, you know, human beings were supposed to take care of the environment. We're supposed to take care of animals. We're supposed to take care of everything around us. Yet the villains in this film are hell bent on just throwing everything aside and shunting all of their problems onto this trash island off the coast of Japan, and that includes the dogs. And in the mythology of this movie, the dogs have all contracted a disease, the dog flu. And we'll get into it later.
Spoilers,
We'll get into it later. But they contract this flu that makes them sick, and then they have to be pushed off into into this trash island. But before this happens, the history of this place has set up two different clans, warring clans in Japan's
Nakamura.
history.
No, it's Kobayashi.
Kobayashi, yeah. Kobayashi. And these two clans, one is predominantly they love cats, and the other one loves dogs. Well, no, it's not even that.
No, it's not that.
It's just the dogs.
There was
dogs,
this history where they were this Kobayashi thing was they were trying to wipe out dogs hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then this boy.
the samurai warrior boy.
Samurai
this
warrior
child.
boy, this mythological character, goes and allies himself with the dogs, and then everyone likes dogs. And
No. Well, he chops off the head of.
Oh yeah.
He goes into combat with the leader of this clan. He kills him in battle, and he brings peace to the dogs.
And meanwhile,
of
we're just
Japan.
seeing all this traditional Japanese mythology in art.
And
portrayed.
also, the voiceover lends itself to the Japanese beats of storytelling
Yes.
sometimes. Like,
Oh, that's actually a good note. Is the whole time that we're getting the history, there's this musicality. Once again, one thing Wes Anderson is great at in the dialogue, like a tribal beat, that you're getting an oral history from your elders in a clan or something like that.
That's what I felt like from like, and who better to play him than A.F. Murray Abraham? Like, his voice is so underrated as a really peaceful, a really just mellow voice that you can listen to, and it's beautiful.
Should we just go through the cast then, because it's ridiculous.
It's
this is a
crazy
ridiculous cast.
So the main dog character is named Chief,
Yeah,
and it's played by Bryan Cranston of Breaking Bad and
many other things.
many other things. He was also in Power Rangers.
He's been in a lot of things.
He's been in a lot of things. He's been around. And I felt he did an amazing job. Let's go down the list.
So yeah, we've got Jeff Goldblum as Duke, Bill Murray as Boss, and
Scarlett Johansson as Nutmeg, Edward Norton as Rex.
so those Rex, Chief, Boss, and Duke are sort of like they're our main dogs that we follow throughout the movie.
They're a clan in and of themselves, and all of them have been owned at some stage by some fairly well-to-do people.
Yeah, for example,
except for Chief.
Yes.
who's been a
He's a
stray
stray.
pretty much all his life, so he's an outcast.
and they have some hilarious backstories that they go into. Anyway, Bill Murray is
he's great.
His dog Boss was the what's the word symbol thing for a team.
I don't know. Oh, mascot.
Yeah,
he was a mascot.
the mascot
for a
this-
baseball team.
Yeah.
Japanese kids baseball team. And then who else was it? I think it was Bob Balaban's. King. He was like a mascot for a dog chew company, and I'm not sure what Jeff Goldblum's one was. It was Duke, and he played. Was
he the one who always knew things?
Yeah. Oh, he has a great bit every time. Like every couple of minutes, whenever he's going to say something, it's always about a rumor that he's heard. It's like, hey guys, did you hear the rumor?
And no one knows what he hears the
And
rumors
it's like,
from.
wait, what do you mean? But all his rumors are correct, every single one of them, and it's so weird because he has no reason to know any of this. But it's a great little comedy bit. I feel like it's unexplained, but it doesn't need explaining because it has an effect.
Oh, and Tilda Swinton plays Oracle, and Oracle is just a dog who knows how to watch television. Thus, she knows the future because it's on television. Like
it's so good.
It's so clever.
It's really it is very clever how they do that. Because it's almost like when I was watching this, especially the first half, I felt like I was watching a Western film that was also combined with the Greek mythology.
It's very mythological, yes.
Yeah, and I love that because like the very first time we meet this pack of dogs is in a Western type thing where this trash bag falls from the sky from them ferrying trash over to this trash island. It lands in the middle, and then these larger dogs come up. And
They're Scotty. They're not large dogs. They're Scotty dogs.
They're Scotty dogs, but all these dogs are fairly large when you compare it to the kid that's in this.
That's
movie.
true. Although that's probably a choice done for artistic reasons as opposed to logical ones.
Anyway,
Okay,
there's this great scene. As soon as the bag lands, tumbleweeds go over in between the two clans of dogs, and there's a great stare down kind of thing. And it was great.
It's a Mexican standoff as well.
Yes,
It's great.
uses a lot of tropes.
Yeah. So we probably should talk about the main story then. It's hard to just talk about things to criticize in this movie because everything that we want to just talk about talk about the movie. Because so the movie starts with Mayor Kobayashi has taken over, and the dogs are in the epidemic as we were talking about earlier. So he's shipped them off, and his nephew, who he has adopted as his ward, is very upset. You only see him in the shadow, which I think is very beautifully.
It's a really well structured scene because you've got him at the podium talking, and then in the background, when he makes that decision, the lights dim on the stage, and we focus on him in the background. This kid in the background just watching it, and the way his body has been positioned against the light tells us that he's not happy with what's just happened.
It's a great example of visual storytelling.
Yes.
The whole film is taking full advantage of visual storytelling.
I feel like this film could probably be a silent film and still work.
Well, in a sense it is. So there are only two English voice actors playing humans. One's Frances McDormand, who's playing the interpreter, and she's on it.
It's great. There's some great comedic beats there with her character where sometimes she'll be repeating back what the Japanese character has said, and she's translating it for a radio program or a TV or something like that. And then there's beats where she'll go, "Wait, what?" Yeah. Like she's like, "Did they just say?" Like she takes beats to say that, and it was great.
And one of my favorite moments is the main character later in the movie says a haiku, and she doesn't translate it. She's just like, "Oh, it's a haiku. I'll explain later." And she's just crying.
She's crying, like bawling her eyes. And that in itself, like, I like that this film doesn't take itself too seriously.
No.
Because there have been times in Wes Anderson's past where he has taken himself a little too seriously and it hasn't really worked. But this, like that haiku moment, is like he's poking fun at how like some people can be so a little bit uptight and they see something artful like that and they just break down into tears. And while that is true, it's also worthy to note that it can be a bit much sometimes. And
also,
he utilizes that for a joke.
There was something that goes like, art doesn't always work translated. I think that
exactly. That's it's a dual layered thing that he does with that. It's
good. We should mention the Japanese cast because the Japanese cast is fantastic on their end as well. So we have you've got Yoko Ono for instance.
Yeah, Yoko Ono is in this film playing a version of herself. Even her hair, like I noticed, her pigtails. She's got YO on the beads on her pigtails. That's great.
Yeah, so
that's great.
We have a young voice actor, Koyu Rankin. I think it's Rankin. It must be Rankin. As Atari, who is our protagonist. He is the little boy who goes off to the island to save his dog.
Let's speak about that. His entry into the world of the Isle of Dogs is really
brutal. Yeah,
we're seeing it from the perspective of the dogs watching. I can't remember what they call it. It's
something skipper.
Ocean hopper.
Ocean hopper.
That's what they call it. They call planes ocean hoppers, which is great.
I mean, that's what they do.
It's only mentioned once, and that's like it's not one of those weird things that young adult movies go. It's like it's an ocean hopper, an ocean hopper, an ocean hopper.
Now we will have explanations of what an ocean hopper is for 5 minutes.
This film doesn't do that. Anyway, we see it, and he loses a wing, and he crashes down. It's kind of comedic almost because it stops in midair, and it just drops, and you see a little explosion that comes out from it. And then he comes out and he's got this end of a propeller just stuck in his helmet, and he just breaks it off.
Well, for me, what that was is in my eyes, that was Wes Anderson taking on Roald Dahl elements because it's something very Roald Dahl dark comedy in children's tales that must have come from Fantastic Mr. Fox and is into another animated movie that's not Roald Dahl. And I love that he's done this because it works in his own franchise.
Well, it does. It does. It definitely works in this because as soon as he breaks off that thing, he just stops and he's like, oh, and then he just collapses again.
Yeah, he's just out of it.
So much of that kind of comedy beats, the slapstick comedy that he's done in previous works, like Grand Budapest Hotel, again has a immense amount of slapstick comedy. He utilizes in this, and it's great. It works really well. especially with the animation style that it is.
We haven't actually talked about the animation style. It's this weird. Is it stop motion?
It is stop motion.
It is stop motion.
So I was watching a little behind the scenes clip of them put, you know, the sushi scene where they're preparing the sushi and stuff like that. Beautiful scene.
It's so good.
Oh.
It's disgustingly beautiful at the same time. It's
it
one
is.
of those weird.
So what it is, it's an overhead point of view shot of the chopping board and the ingredients on the side and the knife. And what happens is these clay animation hands come in and they start chopping up the food ready to prepare to create sushi for this other character. And it takes it's a long scene, but it's worth it because of how beautifully constructed not just the scene is to do this, but also the sushi that this claymation character is creating is absolutely stunning. It's a weird it's a weird enthralling thing to watch.
No, it drags you in. It's one of those weird scenes. It's like, what am I watching? But this is kind of awesome. It's like,
for me, it really utilizes the animating style to really pull you in as a viewer. Like it's similar to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in that it used that comic book style.
It's
of
taking
colors
advantage of its medium to portray things in a unique and special way.
And I was there. I loved it. It was a good use of what they were doing.
It was. Wow, what do we talk about next? There's so much to talk about with this movie.
Well, let's talk about the plot.
No, I want you to do this first of all. This has to be a thing.
Okay.
1, 2,
all right,
3.
it's time for Deep Dive!
Yay.
Not that we haven't already deep dived.
I know,
already.
we just jumped straight in because this movie, there's so much to talk about.
There is so much to talk about.
Let's talk about the little girl who's played by Greta Gerwig.
For character background, she's an American that has done an away trip to Japan through a school. I imagine she's an exchange student, and she's got this brilliant, huge blonde afro, freckles all over her face. She's just an adorable character. I love her. And she feels things so strongly. Like the first time we meet her, she's in the audience when the mayor is giving the decree to send all the dogs away. And she's got tears coming out down her eyes, and she's wearing a headband that said "Stand Up for Dogs" or something.
Yeah,
something like that. And her classmates are there in solidarity with the dogs, and it's a beautiful but also funny scene.
Yes,
it's like when you see a kid be so passionate about something. It's cute, but at the same time, it's kind of funny in that cutesy.
She has a wonderful monologue. She's in her room with a torch, and she's got on her. She's trying to work out the conspiracy behind the dog because someone's in for the dogs, and she's right. And
she's right, but it's done in a childlike manner.
It's done like she doesn't know what she's doing, even though she's completely right, which is a smart choice.
It is, because if you had a kid that knew everything, it wouldn't feel like a child at all. And the way that they handled the children in this movie is, I feel, very mature. It's like he stepped back into what it felt like to be a child.
No, it reminded me of Moonrise Kingdom in that respect.
Yeah.
In the childish kind, the
childlike.
The child characters are fully realized and yet at the same time completely wacky and bizarre.
Because anyway, back to this monologue. She's drawn out like this Venn like crazy diagram on her wall of like pictures of the mayor, pictures of his major domo, pictures of is it Atari? Yeah, Atari. Yeah. Pictures of the dogs, all this other stuff, and she's talking into the microphone saying, "Oh, there's something wrong with this. Like the mayor is corrupt. I don't like him at all. You know, he's evil. I don't like him at all."
Atari, why are you so brave? Why have you done this? Why have you gone to this island? Am I in love with you?
No, she does that. Why? By a brave, the charge is being led by a brave young boy who risked his life to go to Trash Island to find his. And then her caretaker knocks on the door.
Yeah, that's right.
She goes to the door. She gets interrupted. She comes back to it and she says, "By the
she
boy,"
loses her words.
And then she stops and looks at the photo, and there's a moment, and she goes, "I think I have a crush on you."
Yeah.
And it's such a childlike thing to do. It's
such a Wes Anderson line as well.
Exactly, yeah.
It's so Wes Anderson is one of the few directors who has a style that's unto himself and is always true to it in a way, but it doesn't always work, but it usually works.
Yeah.
And that's really unique in Hollywood.
And I think one of the big things that makes it work is the fact that he believes in it.
Yes.
Like, he buys it 100%, and not just him, but the characters he has in his stories and the actors that portray them are 100% believing in everything that they're saying and everything that they're doing, which I think is such an underrated thing for Hollywood films.
Yeah. Let's go back to the island, because the island is incredibly... It is a trash island.
It's got its own mythology.
Yes.
It's got its own background.
And I think, if I can't remember right how it looks, but I think it looks like a paw touching a hand or something like that.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
it.
like out of Michelangelo's whatever it's called on the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. The creation of man.
Yeah. So Atari arrives, and normally it's like you'd expect the main character to arrive in glory, and he'd start on his trek. No, he's injured.
Crash lands from a
There's two scenes of him recovering. Like, they take two scenes to have him recover.
It's so good. And don't they carry no, because then they get then they get ambushed by the mayor's people.
Yes.
And also a new addition to their little army are these robot dogs.
To replace dogs, they will introduce robot dogs.
Which is funny, because there's a scene, and I understand them not continuing on with it, but there's a scene where Atari breaks free of the netting and all this other stuff that they've got him trapped in. He runs over, he grabs the controller for the robot dog before the robot dog can kill who is it?
Chief.
Chief. To kill Chief, who's battling it, and he presses a button, and it turns into this little cute toaster oven with a dog-like head.
Have you seen the old Wallace and Gromit cartoons?
Yes.
And there's this. One of the villains is a dog, but it's a robot dog in one of the old sketches, and it reminds me of that, because it's this evil.
Well, it's the same animation style.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of things reminiscent of that.
They have fight scenes, and really all they do is they show this kerfuffle, this cloud, and people running around
of
it.
Dust and arms and legs going everywhere, and
it reminded me a little bit of Team America, actually.
But that's what they did in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes, they did that as well.
Yeah, they did that in that film as well, which I think is good, because that's not the focus isn't the scraps that they get into. It's the character development.
And they're showing the chaos of a fight in just the most
simplistic way.
Yeah.
I like that.
One of the character moments is on Chief, and he is a stray, and he doesn't like Atari. He doesn't trust humans because he's a stray. All the other dogs are like, he needs to find his dog. His dog needs his master. And to them, it's all logical. It's like a dog and the best friend of man. They need to be together. But he's a stray, so he's got this opposite opinion, almost on the same line as the villains, that dogs and humans shouldn't be together. Rah, rah, rah.
There's a great character choice, because what happens is Atari and Chief. Why do I keep forgetting that name? Atari and Chief.
The name of the main dogs is Duke, Boss, Chief, and Rex. So they all have very similar names.
They actually bring this up. They talk about how they're the top dogs on the island as well at some point. Where it's like, no, we don't need human beings. I mean, your name is Duke, your name is Boss, your name is Chief. Like, we're like the top dogs here. We don't need anybody else. And anyway, they're going through this journey to try and find Atari's dog, and Spots, and they're going on this. They're going on this journey, and then we have a little bit of a flashback where we go back and see who Spots really was, and he was a guard dog to Atari that was given to him by the mayor, ironically enough.
Yeah, and he's also the first dog deported.
Yes,
which is sort of a plot point that actually matters.
Yeah. And anyway, they go through this journey, and then Chief undergoes a character transformation.
He goes from being this hard-knuckled, pod, I guess, stray, to being this begrudging, at first, loyal
anti-hero.
friend.
Like he
is.
And he begins to realize the value of having a master who cares who actually cares.
Well, I think
his
it's important
well-being.
that they have these scenes between him and Nutmeg, who is a show dog, who's played by Scarlett Johansson.
They only have 3 scenes.
They only have 3 scenes, but I think they're really important because they show that Chief, even though he's a stray, is not adverse to relationships. It's just that relationships haven't been kind to him.
Yeah.
One of the backstories he talks about is how he was forced into this couple, and they actually provided him his like favorite food, was like chili or something.
He goes into this backstory where he talks about this family who adopted him, and they had like 5 kids, and then one day before he could escape, this one of the kids, the youngest one, came up and tried to pet him, and he said, I attacked him, I bit him. There was blood all over the kitchen floor. And I don't know why I did it. To this day, I don't understand why I did it. And then they locked him away.
Haunting.
It's really sad. Like I felt quite depressed while he was telling the story. Anyway,
it's like when you go to jail.
When you like Scotty, because Scotty has been to jail several times.
When you visit someone in jail and they're talking about the crime they've committed, a lot of the time, especially if it's like a drunken crime or something like that, where they didn't have full control of themselves, it reminded me of that sort of thing where it's. This person feels guilt for what they've done.
And they're not sure even why they did it to begin with. And so he gets locked away in the garage out the back of this family home to be taken away back to the pound.
Yeah.
And while he's in there, the grandmother of the family came in and served him a bowl of chili. And he said, I like to think that she cooked it for me. But it could just have been like any
leftovers,
other thing. Leftovers. And then I didn't stick around to find out what was going to happen.
Because he just ran away the next day.
Which is interesting because it draws parallels to what you were saying, the whole prison thing, where it was the last meal, and he was probably
I
going to be
think
put
there were a lot of
down.
allusions to him being a prisoner or an outcast of society in a very criminal sense.
Yeah, and that was, I really loved seeing that because it's not something you really get to see in a movie like this.
You saw a full character redemption in a dog, which is more harrowing than something you see in modern dramas, which is hard to do. And
it's very hard to do. And I feel like if they spent any more time on it that they did, it would have become really on the nose, and it really would have been overplayed. And so the fact that they keep it restricted to those like very few scenes, but they make so much use of it in that, like they could have gone into a flashback like they did with Atari, but instead they chose to allow Bryan Cranston to deliver this monologue as the dog, and it worked really well.
So basically what happens is they try to... Back to the plot. They try to find...
Sorry, there's so much I want to talk about.
Yeah, no,
with this
Atari
movie,
is
really
looking for Spots. What's interestingly enough, he has a little mic which allows him to talk to Spots. So even though they don't speak the same, I think it translates for them.
Yeah, it does translate. And that's what I love also about the use of set in the future kind of thing, where they use this, but it's not a big plot device. It's just an incidental thing that exists during this time. And it does come up once or twice, but overall, it just adds to the world building more than it adds to anything else. And I think that is also important in a film like this that is set in a different time and a different place. I think you really
one of my
need
favorite
stuff like that.
Bizarre, funny things that happened is opposed to the mayor is a group of scientists who are searching for the cure for dog flu,
of which Yoko Ono is a part of.
She's like the deputy and also is in love with the main director of the science.
Which is, I think that's open to the audience's interpretation, which I also think was really good.
Yeah,
because they don't spend too much time on it.
So they're in this science experiment, and they're going through. There's one experiment after another, and then at the end they get a battle several the glass scientific what do you call them, those glasses, the measuring glasses, you know what I mean. You think they're about to do another experiment at the end, and they pour liquid into all of them, and then all of a sudden they just drink it because they're actually celebrating. They're just having a drink. It's hilarious. And then they have a celebratory cheer, and they've done it, and then the plot thickens because we finally take a look at the inner circle of the government. Oh, I love this. And this is so good. Like, we go around and this is where we see the cats as well for the first time. They're having a go. I mean, they're not having a go. They're ripping off James Bond here. Yes. It's totally Spectre or whatever they're really called originally. They're just going around. They all have their cats. They're all petting them, and they're all going around. There's this evil general who came up with
the scientist first. The scientist that came up with the poison.
Yep.
And it's revealed that this scientist had released this poison into the water system to give the dogs this dog flu, so they had an excuse to send them off to the island.
Dog flu is just normal dog behaviors?
Yeah,
it's hilarious, but
so there's during the film as well. There will often be a lone dog. I think they use Chief as an example first, and he's just sitting on a hill with his back to the camera, and he just sneezes once.
Yeah,
and it's just this really nice. It's weird. It's just beautiful. Like it's that's a dog.
Very appropriate.
That's a thing that a dog does.
Yeah. Anyway, there's this hierarchy who. Some of them have helped, and then there's the mayor, who's behind deporting them to the island, and there's also this evil lady who's making these robot dogs to militarize and replace dogs in society, but they're just out there anti-dog. It's like that's their only mission.
Yeah, it's refreshingly simple for a villain to just have the removal of something petty, you know what I mean?
That's the other good thing about How to Train Your Dragon 3, in my opinion, was the villain was just there as a hunter. Like, he just enjoyed the hunt. Yeah. There was nothing else to it.
It's just a simple human emotion. Like, we don't need anything nefariously large to overcomplicate these characters.
And it shows how evil is simple in a lot of respects.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is. Like, I know I know a decent handful of people who
are evil?
Hate dogs for no, like...
How dare they?
No reason.
It's true.
It's very sad.
It is.
It's very sad.
I know some too. It really grinds my gears.
Yeah. Anyway.
Let's go back to the school. So there's the Greta Gerwig's character who's playing Tracy Walker, the exchange student, and she's talking English to these Japanese students who also reply in Japanese, which I think is very quaint and cute.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they actually understand each other, even though it's...
But there's some moments where they do switch between Japanese and English. When she can't keep up in Japanese, she switches back to English, and then they try and help her by switching to English. Which it just feels like a really natural thing that you do when you're in a different country and know like a fraction of the language.
Well, I remember when I was studying Italian in high school, there would be quite often times where I'd be speaking and I would swap between the two without realizing it, and the teacher was like, "Yeah, that's good. That means you're getting it. That means that the words in your head." And I've of course forgotten all by now. But
I was going to ask you if you could give us a few sentences in Spanish.
No, Italian, but
Italian. Sorry.
Ne.
Was that no?
No, it wasn't.
No. But yeah, like a lot of these interactions did feel incredibly natural, which I really liked.
It felt like old '80s kids movies. There was this where they're planning to they're trying to figure out the conspiracy. So they send the hacker undercover, and they don't.
Oh yeah, that was a sleeper character for me because you notice him here and there, but you don't realize what he's actually doing.
It's brilliantly done because he's just there in the background every single time. In the dog hunting squad, which is sent out. Oh, the dog hunting squad is hilarious. They have these drones. First of all, props on using drones to try and catch Atari and the dogs.
That's so good.
And
so good. Yeah. And they think of everything. Like they've got a camera on it. They've got like there's a trapper mechanism thing that comes out. And you see this character, this student who's been introduced with the rest of the classroom earlier on. Everyone kind of like there's a moment where they're like, so what are we going to do? And they all look at him, and then that's the last time you see him in that classroom. And the next thing you know, he's like infiltrated he's in the
background in the dog squad,
and he's in the back, but he's not like front and center.
No,
like, often he's just at the end of a scene. It'll go down the line of these dog squad characters, and it'll get to him, and he's just like.
Yeah,
just looking around, and then at the very end, and I got up on my feet from the couch and went yes when I saw that he had, because at the end the villain, the mayor, eventually he comes good and he says, okay, look, it's not fair on the children and it's not fair on the dogs, so I don't want this to happen anymore. And then we figure out who the real villain was, and we realize that the mayor was being a puppet for his second in command, his creepy Igor type character.
It's not quite that. he is evil.
Yes,
he's
he is.
villain.
Like, don't get me
But
wrong, he's not fully redeemed, but at the same time,
he has a slight redemption in the fact that he realizes what he's doing is dishonorable, which I think is such a nice.
It's
thing.
a big Japanese theme.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cultural theme for the Japanese people that dishonor plays a huge role in their social lives.
Yes.
And I think bringing that in was a great choice to further the character along. And then we get this other character who's like this pasty white, vampiric almost type character.
Yes,
who's
his
like
second in command.
His second in command is completely evil.
He looks like Igor or
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
like that's it. Anyway, he presses the button and the signal goes all the way to everything, and then suddenly everything malfunctions and nothing starts working. And then we go across to this little computing room and the X-ray flips on and we see inside, and there's the hacker, and he turns around and looks at the camera with a huge smile.
And he's got put the jersey of the Pro Dogs supporters on,
and the headband and
Yeah.
everything. And at that moment I got up and I was like, yes, that was so good. Because that was an outcome that was earned.
It was.
Because as soon as that button hit, I was like, oh my, like they're gonna kill off the dogs.
Because you forget about him. That's the brilliant thing, is he's in the background, this character, so you don't think about him.
Yeah.
You know,
but if you go back through the film, you will notice him. Oh, there he is. And that earns the outcome for this film. It's not like other movies that are a bit lazy and decide, oh no, we're not going to have this character in, we can't be bothered setting the shot up or whatever, and then we'll just have him in for the last 10 minutes and show that, he saved the day kind of thing. No, this film sets it up appropriately and then delivers on a great payoff for that character.
I'd like just to quickly talk about the score and the music, because it's fantastic for so many
one of the starting scenes is the Japanese drummers.
Yeah, the Japanese drummers.
And it's so well shot.
Yeah.
Like they're just it's so good.
Tribal drums.
Tribal drums, and it sets the scene perfectly. Like auditorially and visually, we are transported into this Japanese place.
It has this thing where the music is in the story and it's in the background at the same time.
Well, it's the heartbeat. That's what I felt like, because
that was going to be my point. Is like it keeps us at a rhythm throughout the entire movie, which keeps the film always feeling in pace.
And one of the beautiful things about that is it also keeps the jokes in place as well. The timing of the jokes, also the timing of just the dialogue that is being said. There are moments like in Bryan Cranston's speech about his past. There are moments and beats where he just stops. And he does something very dog-like, like he licks his nose or something like that. But it works in the beat of the story that he's telling.
I was going to say that's a very theatre thing to do.
Yes.
Like coming from theatre, you have these moments, especially with comedy, where you know that these lines need to hit. You need to give the audience a moment of appreciation, and then you need to continue, because if you don't continue, the story doesn't keep going, and you've had this flat moment. And
you've got to know when to continue it as well. You can't leave it for too long.
Yeah.
Sometimes if someone, I've seen it several times where someone tells a pun and they go,
Whereas I like
that's too long. That's too long.
I like to punish people and just keep going with it.
And sometimes that's funny.
Yeah.
Punishing people with puns is quite hilarious.
Yeah.
But I felt like this film knew exactly what pace it needed to keep, and it kept to it. It didn't go crazy.
Which I think is something that, especially in modern films with action sequences and things like that, it's so hard to do. I think Edgar Wright is someone who's very good at it.
Edgar Wright is definitely someone who's very good at it, and also obviously Wes Anderson. Very, very good at it. Which brings me to another little subplot line, is the cannibal dogs.
Oh, it's
throughout the film,
heart-wrenching.
Throughout the film, Jeff Goldblum's character is he's got some great lines. Everything that he starts with is, "Hey guys, did you hear the rumor?" Yeah. And everyone's just like, "No, what rumor?" And then he goes on to say, there's the first dogs here. They were cannibals. They kill and eat."
So this island, before it was a rubbish island, was actually an experimental island where they were doing weird things with dogs.
Yes. And so those dogs that were being experimented on became the first tribe of dogs that lived on this island. And so throughout the film, he's referencing them, talking about, they're bad. And then finally, we get the backstory of Spots, who was eventually picked up by the cannibal dogs and taken to their lair. And then there's a great scene where he's still inside the cage and he's been told by another dog previously that there's cannibals and you're probably going to die, kind of thing.
Oh, can I just talk about Spots' teeth?
Oh, yeah.
I love it. His teeth are super weapons.
They're great. So what he does is he breaks them off and he spits them at people and they explode. And it's
military. It's military grade. That's what's written
military.
on it.
Because every time he's about to use them, they zoom in on his mouth like from profile, and you see a close up of the teeth, and on the teeth is written military grade, and it's great. Anyway, he gets taken away to this old abandoned electrical mill or something. And he asks him, "So, are you guys going to eat me now?" And the leader of the pack says, "No, we're not going to eat you."
He's so offended. And then they explain they'd eaten their previous leader after he died because they were starving to death. And it's the one time they howl in the entire movie.
Every time they talk about their previous leader, they howl. Like it's a great kind of like it's so sad and it's heart wrenching and it's like. It feels like that's it. Like that's what dogs feel when they do howl. Like I know because I mean, you know, I've got
Caleb.
a dog. I've got a dog, and like there's been a few times where I've had to walk to the shops for like 20 minutes and then walk back. And as I've been leaving the house, I just hear this from the backyard, and it breaks my heart every time I hear it.
Dogs feel sadness.
They do, and I think this encapsulated that in a very beautiful way.
Yeah. Plus, they're all half disintegrated from the experiments.
Oh, yeah, one's missing a leg.
There's this hilarious line
like,
where Spots is like, you can't always tell. Actually, you can usually tell. They're pretty messed up. And I love the responsibility that Spots has because one of the dogs there, he gets with a female dog and they have kids, and his excuse like. Atari is going there to get his Spots back, but Spots is like, no, I can't go with you anymore because I'm a dad now. I have a responsibility, and this is fantastic.
Because he used to have responsibility over Atari, and because he's been away from him for so long, that responsibility is transferred over to a family.
Yeah.
And it's a very touching moment because he also gets called up on it on Chief, who it is revealed that they are brothers.
Yes.
And Chief gets angry at him because this boy has gone through hell and back to find him. And he's like, "How dare you do this? How dare you do that?" And he just turns to him. Spots turns to Chief and he says, "Oh, you're a street dog, aren't you?
Yeah.
You don't understand. You don't get what it
You
actually
don't really
means
understand responsibility.
to be responsible for something," and that hits so hard for Chief because he starts to realize
It's really the final turning point. There's been several turning points to that point, but it's really
the character learning
Yes.
how to be responsible because he starts off being very carefree, I do my own thing, nobody's ever going to tell me different. And then there's a moment where Atari plays fetch with him for the first time and he throws this rubber rod,
and he's like,
he goes, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it for you."
I'm just doing
it. And then he looks over and is like, "I kind of feel like doing it. Well, I'm only doing it for me. I'm not doing it for you." And so he goes over, picks it up, and brings it back. And the first response from Atari is, "Good boy," and he hugs him. And it's the first time.
Then he gives him a bath.
Yeah, and then he gives him a bath, and that's another turning point as well. He's like, maybe humans aren't all that bad.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where they're walking up this hill, and Atari's struggling to get up the hill, and he goes back down.
You know what's funny?
And he helps him up. And
my uncle took in a dog. Its original owner went to jail, and its original owner hadn't been very nice to him. So when I first met it, I wanted to go up to it and pat it, and I was like, no, don't do that. What's wrong with that? Don't touch it on its head. That's where it used to get beaten.
Yeah.
So it used to be a very timid dog, but thanks to coming into contact with my uncle and his son, my cousin, the dog opened up and it was suddenly a loving, kind dog. This doesn't happen by accident. It's due to interaction with people who are good. And I think that's what they're showing, this very real relationship between Chief opening up. And that's one of the best things about actually being able to hear the dogs, in my opinion, is Chief's transformation.
Yeah.
It's so
that for me is one of the main. It's the main.
It's a great redemption story,
Yeah.
which you hardly ever see in Hollywood movies. What are we up to?
Good question. Well, we just talked about the cannibal dogs.
Yeah.
And how they aren't really
Also,
cannibals.
Spots. They finally get to Spots. Spots can't go with them, but at this point, all the dogs are about to be poisoned by and killed off by the government.
Which is the same way, like, they used the wasabi poison,
Yes.
and earlier in the story, they used the same poison to kill
the chief scientist, who
the
was
chief scientist.
actually already found a cure to the dog epidemic. Dog flu.
Dog flu.
epidemic.
Yeah.
Which was, once again, a beautiful scene. Perfectly done. And then we have Tracy going into the bar. It's not really a bar, and she orders a chocolate milk.
That's right.
It's
It's that classic case of when children make believe and play pretend. They pretend that they're like a detective or a nurse or a doctor, or and it was exactly that. Like, she was like, I'm being adult kind of thing,
Yeah.
but she really has no idea about what's going on. It's just great.
And then she meets up with Yoko Ono, and there's this wonderful conversation in English and Japanese at the same time, which is it subtitled? It's not subtitled. It's still,
It isn't.
You're just
No, it's
you
not
are
subtitled.
understanding the conversation through what Tracy's saying only.
But she's not doing that whole thing of, wait, what was that? They're in danger kind of thing. She was like just
What was that,
answering like a
Skippy?
real, it was. She was just answering in a realistic way,
Yeah.
like she was actually having a conversation, which was nice.
And also, there's brilliant voice acting and animated acting from Yoko Ono's character,
Which is strange because she barely said anything, yet just the emotions. Because when you see the poster for this, you think, oh, they're a bit emotionless, they're dolls kind of thing when you look at it. But then when you get into the film itself, these claymation figures, it's amazing what they can do in terms of emotion.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that's one of the things, like, you see, like, tears forming in their eyes and stuff when they're talking about something important.
I feel like Wes Anderson is a secret fan of James and the Giant Peach, the movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is that great a movie, but there's a lot of childish memory, nostalgia for me associated with it, because I remember watching it after reading the book. Book's better, but Roald Dahl in general.
Roald Dahl. You can't
Apart
go
from
wrong.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, I don't think there's been that many good Roald Dahl adaptations on the big screen.
There was the BFG, but that wasn't that great.
It was, it was
Too many adult jokes.
the
didn't fly.
the animated one, the animated BFG, and the old school Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They're pretty good, but and Fantastic Mr. Fox is very good. Oh, I have an audiobook of that as well. It's great. Anyway, Roald Dahl is fantastic. Yeah, we could go on for Roald Dahl.
I mean, but like there is definitely a lot of, I feel, Roald Dahl influence in Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
From even just like the animation style to the characters.
Like the characters feel like stuff from the Twits or stuff like that. These dark, overly nasty characters who are funny, and then pointlessly so. It's good. So the film climax is that they managed to get all the dogs off the island. The hackers.
The hacker is the hero. It's so good.
And then there's this scene where.
But also, I'd like to point out that the rest, like, it doesn't feel like a win unearned for any of the other characters either, because all of these characters, they learned something about themselves and they grew. See, in other films, it might have been, they could have not done anything.
There are characters in this who don't grow, like the other dogs.
Yes. But there's a purpose.
There's a purpose behind them. They are there to highlight Chief. Without those characters, you don't see how damaged Chief really is.
Yeah, because all these characters are the complete antithesis of Chief, and Chief is the complete antithesis of them.
And yet at the same time, they're hilarious. Like Bill Murray's character is hilarious.
He's great.
Jeff Goldblum's rumored character is hilarious.
But also, what's his name? Go back a page. Go back a page. The Edward Norton.
Yes, Edward Norton.
Edward Norton, because what happens is Edward Norton's character takes over leadership of the pack.
Yeah.
And he drives them straight into the ground.
Yeah. No.
Because we start off with him being the logical one in the group, and he's saying, we need to help this boy, we need to do this, we need to do that, and it makes sense. It's like, okay, yeah, we're on board. And then after Chief's transformation into someone like a dog who actually understands the value of, human contact and being friends and all this other stuff.
He becomes the moral center.
Yeah, he becomes the moral center. And then Edward Norton's character is completely flipped, and he's become this really selfish, loathsome kind of leader in a way. And that's at the point where they fall into the river. Like he says, all right, who is the vote we kick Chief out of the group?
clan.
Like,
Well, I think it's done very tongue in cheek. It
is, but like it's just a great like little flip, I guess.
Yeah. So they make their plan is they make a raft and they swim off the island all the way back to the mainland, which is wonderfully animated, as you can imagine.
I think it was supposed to be over like 3 days or something.
Yeah, but once again, the cut of the movie is so well done that it doesn't.
Yeah.
The time.
Well, what they do is they cut when they're building the boat. They go day night.
There are a lot of
morning,
very
and then
clever
they take
edits with Frances McDormand as the interpreter.
Yes.
Overdoing some of the news articles and stuff like that, which really makes the film flow very well. It's interesting because a lot of what she's saying you could argue is exposition, but what it's actually doing, from my point of view,
contextual exposition.
It's contextual exposition, but it's also character building exposition because I feel like she herself becomes a character.
Yeah, as she grows. As
she's
she
a
goes
character
along.
witness for the growth of the other characters in this movie.
And it doesn't feel like someone is just reading from, a notepad somewhere behind a screen. It feels like she's actually... She starts off not being very invested in this story. She's almost like the audience character in that respect.
She's a flawed narrator. That's what she is.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you have it in novels, there's a flawed narrator, or especially in stage plays, sometimes you'll have a voiceover, but the voiceover...
It's unreliable. It's a personal narrator.
It's a personal narrator who's speaking directly to the audience, but also representing the audience to the main plot. It's connecting them one-on-one.
And often they're quite biased with their own opinions, and
Yes.
they insert that into the narration, which is what she ends up
Yes.
doing by the end of the film. Which is, it's a great way to do exposition because it gives it a personal bent, and it's not just words on the screen or words in your ear. It's now, this voice is an actual character that is growing with me instead of trying to force me to grow.
Yeah. So we get to the end. The mayor is unopposed because he just killed off the previous guy, who they blame... Do they blame him just accidentally killing us? They blame
They blame it on suicide. They
Yeah.
blame it on suicide. They say, he committed suicide. And that's what sparks Greta Gerwig's commentary, talking about, why would you do this? Why would you kill yourself? You had so much to live for. You're on the cusp of creating a cure for this. Why would you just go and kill yourself? And that's what causes her to investigate everything. And yeah, it's
all the plot threads come together in that final end scene, and his uncle changes his mind because he's doing the dishonorable thing. Even then they're saved anyway because of the hacker, and then, funnily enough, because Atari is the closest relative to the mayor, and the mayor's in jail. He gets elected as the new mayor, which is hilarious. I love the final...
It's like a bylaw. She says, wait a minute, there's a bylaw in this. If they lose, if like he's dethroned, then it immediately goes to his next surviving heir, which is in actual fact Atari.
Which is hilarious. It's so funny.
Great.
They have this scene where they're all...
It's a great use of happenstance.
Yes.
Like, so many films try and shove so many coincidences into a movie to just have an excuse not to write anything out, whereas this one has, like, a few coincidences here and there for key moments.
Have you ever read Terry is it Maurice and the Rats? There's a Terry Pratchett.
Yep.
Yeah, novel, and it reminds me of the end of that, where there's just a bunch of people sitting down at the end of the book and they're just discussing how to fix things, and that's what the kids are doing. They're trying to make up a law, and most of them are just being ridiculous, and then Atari just says something completely sensible, and then they just pass it.
Like one of them is talking about how they're gonna, like, they should deport them and kill them and all this other stuff, and he's like, that is a good point, but we're not going to do that because that's insane. We're going to do what I want us to do.
But he says it in a very casual way. He's like, very good point.
Yeah,
but that's
and I think it just shows the level-headedness of that character as well, that is completely different to his uncle, and also the people around him as well.
Atari's a very interesting character in respects that he's calm and very on the point the whole time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because of how he acts with his dogs, you get the emotion that's in him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the dogs give his character a reason to be more open with his emotions.
And he has a tragic backstory where his parents both died.
In a train accident, a gruesome train accident. And you get... It's interesting, like... And it made me start thinking, like, it kind of sounds like his parents were pro-dog.
It does. No,
because it sounds like they were the ones who left him spots to take care of him after they died.
And it feels like their death wasn't like... It doesn't say that
It
they were
doesn't-
murdered, but
no,
there's
but there is a hint of that.
there's a
It kind of
hint
feels
without-
like there's something there.
without they don't. Once again, a fantastic thing of Wes Anderson where you don't need a story, you don't need anything else. You can make these illusions yourself. It doesn't
As an
matter
audience member.
It doesn't matter if they're
Yeah.
true or not, because either way, that's not the story we're telling, but it's part of the world that the story takes place
And
in.
if you choose to believe in your own imaginations in that respect, it can only really add to the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's a great thing to do if you're a filmmaker, is to be able to be
there are
open to that.
two scenes I want to talk about.
Yes.
The first one is when they're walking to find spots. There's this like montage sequence, which is very much like when they're singing Hakuna Matata and Lion King.
Yeah.
They're just
Yep.
they're moving back in this sort of dancey way, back and forward, and it's hilarious. And the second thing is the conversations between Chief and Nutmeg, Scarlett Johansson's character. There's imagination sequences where she says, because she's trying to do tricks, but she can't do the tricks because she needs other things. So it's like, just imagine this thing, and you actually see in his head imagining the thing, and I love
Yeah,
that.
like, and there's some poetry to
Yeah.
their scenes as well. Like, they're talking to
the
each other. and
dialogue
there's-
is fantastic.
There's beats there that they're hitting really well, and then later on they have a very similar conversation. They're talking about something different, yet those beats are still there in how they're talking to each other, and like it feels like it's very reminiscent of when two people have a really strong connection straight off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like you say something, then I say something, then you say something, and it's poetic how those two characters interact with each other, which is very different to how Chief interacts with the rest of his clan as well.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even fit in there, and the reason why he's there is because you can't be alone on this island.
Yeah. When he first meets Nutmeg, there's this obvious attraction he has to Nutmeg, but at the same time, he's like the guy at the bar. He's just, hey, how you doing?
I love Jeff Goldblum's, when they first see her on the horizon, she's a beautiful dog.
There's
and
a
just
rumor.
like, hey, did you hear the rumor? And everyone's like, what? No, what rumor?
She's Felix's daughter.
She got with Felix. What do you mean got with Felix? Yeah, they went all the way. Went all the way? Really? I didn't hear that. And then
And then she's Felix's bitch. And
Yeah.
there's sort of line in there as well.
and then later on she says, no, I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not with Felix. But it's that's Jeff Goldblum's character. And he even admits it later on in the film. He goes, what do you, like, someone asked him, where do you get all this stuff from? He's like,
don't know.
I don't know. I like gossip. I listen to gossip. I'm
Yeah.
fine with gossip. Like, gossip is good.
It's one of those weird things, Jeff Goldblum's character, where you see the dog saying it makes perfect sense, but you can also imagine in your head Jeff Goldblum himself saying it, and it's just as funny.
In that beautiful way that he says stuff.
Yeah.
Like, again, Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
I loved him in that movie.
That
I love him in
movie is
everything.
so good.
I love him in everything.
That was the best comedy of that year, in my opinion, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is a Marvel movie. Anyway, but it's also a Taika Waititi movie.
Long live Taika Waititi.
Yeah. Then we have the ending credits. Once again, we have the tribal drum ending. The film is so beautifully bookended. Like it's
Not
like,
only that, though, but each individual scene is bookended as well.
Yes.
Like, if we start with one thing, we're going to end with another that is related to that one thing. And I love that they do that, because it feels like not only the scenes are encompassing, but it also helps the whole film to be cohesive.
Yes.
And so we're
it's
not...
the exact opposite of what Aquaman tries to do, because Aquaman has these two scenes around the lighthouse. I know.
Why
it's
are we
so,
talking about Aquaman?
comparison. How to
Okay,
do something
fair.
wrong.
How to do something wrong, yeah.
Because
yeah.
they have these bookends at Aquaman with the lighthouse scene, and he's at the end of the pier. But it's forced onto the movie. The
Yeah.
movie does not earn this. It is just there. Whereas in this, even if it has emotional tie to the movie, you don't feel like it matters as much as it should. Whereas with these scenes, even though the scenes that don't matter that are bookended feel correct, because they are true to the heart of the story, and as well as the visuals and the general tone and genre of this. Is Wes Anderson almost a genre unto himself at this point?
I think you could probably make a case for that. He's just got a certain style and a certain way. Even his dialogue in his films have beats and emotions and like key characteristics.
Because I was
make
talking to
him
you about
a
Paddington
genre.
2 earlier, and how Paddington 2 emulates, in my opinion, some Wes Anderson isms. If that's a thing, it is now. Wes Anderson isms. And I feel like you can't. It replicates it well, but I don't think it's something you can replicate well generally.
No. Well, it's like how when after the guy who was directing Ant-Man. Why am
Edgar
I?
Wright.
Edgar Wright.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry, Edgar. I love your work. Don't
We're
take
very
this personally.
overheated.
Yeah, but in Ant-Man, where they do some of those shots that Edgar Wright would do really well, they try to emulate it, and it doesn't quite work. There are scenes like when one of the characters is telling a story about the heist that they're going to pull.
Yes.
It's like, I heard this from this guy and this guy and this guy. You can see it in your mind as something Edgar Wright would excel with, but the way that they do it in the film doesn't quite work because
It's not quite
punchy
as
enough.
smooth or
It's
punchy
not smooth.
as it could have been, or
It
should have been.
Yeah, it's written for Edgar Wright, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's filmed by him. And yeah, I do agree. I think directors like Edgar Wright and Wes Anderson, I think, are getting to the point now where their films have very unique personalities of their directors. They're not just, directors that just do a film for producers and they have no personality in it. These things have pieces of their directors inside them that work to their advantage.
So, recently the Golden Globes happened, and
Yes.
Spider-Verse won the Golden Globe for animated movie, which I still think is correct, but I think it's hard to know which is the...
For me, when a film or when like a couple of films get up there in quality, where
That is a triumph unto itself.
It transcends rating systems all of a
Yes.
sudden, and it's like I can't put one below the other. Like it's
They're very
just-
close. They're very
yeah,
close.
very very close. And like I can't say that one deserved it more than the other. I would have been happy if either of them won.
That's how I'm going to be when the Oscars come around. Hopefully they're both nominated. If they're not both nominated, I'll be angry.
Yeah, it's going to be depressing.
And
they're both nominated.
if Wreck-It Ralph wins, I'll be so pissed off.
Yeah, don't. Let that
Incredibles 2
happen.
is good. No arguments there, but I still think both Isle of Dogs and Spider-Verse are a step above it in terms of quality.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, to conclude, we both love this movie.
Yeah. Again, it's another Scotty and Jordan show where we just love the movie.
So if you see both of us, or Caleb as a dog, the chances are it's a really good movie.
Ah, dear. But if you think otherwise, if you disagree with that, or if you agree with it, make sure you leave a comment and let us know, because what we want to do is next podcast, we want to read out some of the comments that you guys have left for us. And yeah, we want to hear your opinions.
There are plenty of places to get in touch with us: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It says blah 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 here, but I don't think that's a website.
No, that's blah.blah.blah /
Inconceivable.
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 .wemovies.com
.au
.org.
Yeah.
So find us. No, don't find us there. That's not a real website. I was lying.
How dare you?
But yes, do comment. Do check out our podcasts on Spotify.
And if you had trouble finding this movie as we did at the cinema, can you please let us know? And if you did manage to catch it, can you tell us of the experience in the cinema? Whereas,
Yes.
Especially if it was a crowded cinema, did you have I would love to hear about those experiences. Because
Did you have audience members walking out? Did you have audience members applauding it, booing it? Let us know what your experience was. Also, what your experience was like. What were you expecting before you walked into the cinema? Or put the DVD or
Are you?
Blu-ray
If you're a
into
Wes
play.
Anderson fan, what did you think of this movie in terms of his filmography? If you're not a Wes Anderson fan,
Why the hell did you watch it?
No, if you did watch it, are you more interested to watch other Wes Anderson movies? I think that's another good question.
That's another good point. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching. We are We Movies.
We are We Movies.
We're 2/3 of We Movies.
Yes.
The dog left. Anyway, ciao.
See you guys.